Have you ever wondered why your body suddenly makes a strange, sharp sound that you can't control? It comes out of nowhere, a quick hic that surprises you, makes you laugh, or sometimes even annoys you. 1 second you're eating, talking, or even lying down to rest. And the next second, your body jumps with a noise that you didn't mean to make. That sound, that little hic, is something almost every person on Earth has experienced. But what is it? What really causes those sudden spasms deep inside your chest and throat? Why does it happen when you're not expecting it? And why is it sometimes so hard to make it stop? Tonight, we're going on a calm, simple journey through your body to understand the story behind hiccups. Because even though they seem small and silly, hiccups are actually part of something much bigger. They're connected to your breathing, your digestion, your nervous system, and even your emotions. What seems like just a small twitch or sound is actually a message from inside your body, a message that says something unusual just happened. You might think hiccups are just random, but your body has a reason for doing them. It's all about a special muscle called the diaphragm. This muscle sits just under your lungs and above your stomach. It helps you breathe. Every time you take in air, the diaphragm pulls down to let your lungs expand. Every time you breathe out, it moves back up to help push the air out. It's always working. You don't need to think about it. It just happens quietly, every second of every day, even while you sleep. But sometimes, for reasons we'll explore soon, the diaphragm gets a sudden message to pull down fast, and when that happens, it makes you suck in air too quickly. At the same moment, your vocal cords, deep in your throat, snap shut. That's what creates the hic sound. And just like that, a hiccup is born. It only takes a second, but behind it, a lot is happening. So before we dive deeper into the science, let me ask, where in the world are you listening from tonight? I'd love to know. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you enjoy these calm, curious stories about the body, please consider subscribing. It helps this quiet little channel reach more people who need rest, comfort, and a little bit of understanding. Now, let's keep going. The diaphragm is not the only thing involved in a hiccup. There are nerves connected to it, very important nerves. One is called the phrenic nerve, and the other is the vagus nerve. These nerves act like messengers. They carry information from your brain to your diaphragm and back again. If one of these nerves gets irritated, it might send a signal that makes your diaphragm spasm. That signal can come from many different places. For example, if you eat too much or too fast, your stomach stretches. That stretched stomach can press against the diaphragm, bothering it. If you drink a very cold or very hot drink quickly, the sudden change in temperature can affect the nerves in your throat and trigger a hiccup. Even swallowing air, laughing too hard, or feeling nervous can send mixed signals that confuse your nervous system and lead to hiccups. But what's even more interesting is that scientists don't fully agree on why hiccups exist. Some believe they're just a leftover reflex from when we were babies, or even from much earlier in evolution when our ancestors lived in water. In babies, hiccups are very common, especially when they're feeding. It's thought that hiccups may help babies get rid of extra air in their stomach or help their bodies practice the motion of breathing before birth. Other researchers think hiccups are just an accidental side effect of the complex systems that control breathing, digestion, and nerve activity. In other words, hiccups might not have a purpose anymore. They're just something the body does from time to time. A kind of leftover reflex, like a shadow of something the body used to need long ago. Still, even if hiccups don't serve a clear purpose today, they remind us of how delicate and connected our systems are. Your brain, your stomach, your lungs, your throat, so many different parts of you are always talking to each other. Most of the time, that conversation is smooth and quiet. But every now and then, something small causes a misunderstanding, and your diaphragm responds with a hiccup, a simple spasm, a harmless mistake. And yet, it feels so strange, doesn't it? Sometimes it even feels funny, like your body surprised itself. People try all kinds of tricks to stop hiccups: holding their breath, drinking water upside down, swallowing sugar, even getting scared. And sometimes one of those tricks works, sometimes it doesn't. That's because hiccups usually stop on their own. They come and go. Most of the time, they're just a moment, a twitch, a blink from inside. But even in that moment, there's so much happening. A small reflex, a loud result. In the next part of this journey, we'll look more closely at the nerves involved in hiccups and how they connect the diaphragm to your brain. We'll also explore the emotional side of hiccups, how stress, laughter, and even excitement can play a part. But for now, take a breath. Let it move in and out slowly. Feel your chest rise and fall. Your diaphragm is doing its job, gently and perfectly, right now. Even if it hiccups once in a while, it's still doing what it was designed to do, and that alone is something worth appreciating. If you've ever had hiccups that wouldn't go away, you know how strange and frustrating they can feel. One moment your body is calm, and the next it's making that odd little sound over and over again. It can happen when you're eating, resting, laughing, or even just sitting quietly. And once it starts, it feels like it has a mind of its own. What's really happening when hiccups come back again and again? To understand that, we need to look even closer at the nerves that control your diaphragm, because that's where the signals begin. These nerves are like tiny wires that run from your brain down into your body. The main ones that affect hiccups are called the vagus nerve and the phrenic nerve. Let's start with the vagus nerve. This is one of the longest nerves in your body, and it's very important. It starts in your brain and goes all the way down your neck into your chest, passing by your heart, your lungs, and your stomach. It's part of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of your body that helps you relax and digest food. But even though the vagus nerve usually helps with calm functions, like slowing your heart rate or helping your stomach process food, it's also very sensitive. If something touches it or irritates it, it can send a signal to your diaphragm by mistake. That signal can cause the diaphragm to spasm, and suddenly, you hiccup. Something as small as swallowing air, having acid reflux, or even talking while eating can activate the vagus nerve. Sometimes, even emotional stress or a sudden change in temperature can irritate this nerve. Now, let's talk about the phrenic nerve. This nerve also starts in the neck and travels down through the chest to the diaphragm. It's the main nerve that tells your diaphragm when to move so you can breathe. When you breathe normally, the phrenic nerve sends a steady rhythm of signals to keep the diaphragm moving smoothly. But if this nerve gets confused or irritated by a stretched stomach, a gas bubble, or anything pressing against your chest, it might send a sudden burst of activity instead of a steady rhythm. That burst causes the diaphragm to jerk, and the result is a hiccup. It's like pressing the wrong key on a piano, just one note out of place, but it makes a sound that grabs your attention. When both of these nerves, the vagus and the phrenic, are involved, hiccups can become more frequent or last longer. The body is trying to go back to its normal breathing pattern, but the mixed signals keep interrupting it. That's why hiccups sometimes come in waves. You think they're gone, but then they come back again. It's not because something is wrong with you, it's because your nerves haven't fully calmed down yet. They're still sending little reminders to your diaphragm, asking it to react, even when it doesn't need to. This is also why certain hiccup remedies try to distract or reset these nerves. For example, when you hold your breath, you're increasing the carbon dioxide in your blood, which can sometimes stop the hiccup reflex. Drinking cold water can stimulate the vagus nerve in a different way, helping it reset. Swallowing something sweet or sour might interrupt the signal being sent through your throat. Even getting a sudden surprise or light scare can work for some people because the shock might cause the nervous system to reboot. These tricks don't always work because the hiccup reflex is unpredictable. What works one time might not work the next. And for most people, the hiccups go away on their own anyway, even without trying anything. But understanding the nerves involved helps explain why these remedies exist in the first place. They're all ways of trying to reset the system, to bring the diaphragm and the nerves back into balance. When the nervous system is calm, the hiccups usually stop. Now, what if hiccups don't stop? What if they keep coming back for hours or even days? In very rare cases, hiccups can last a long time, and that's when doctors look deeper to see if there's a medical cause. If the phrenic nerve or the vagus nerve is being pressed or irritated by something like a sore throat, a chest infection, or even a small growth or swelling, that could keep the hiccup reflex going. Sometimes, certain medications can also make hiccups more likely. In those situations, doctors may use medicine to help relax the diaphragm or calm the nerves involved. But again, these cases are rare. Most of the time, hiccups are short-lived and harmless. Still, knowing this helps us understand how closely the body listens to itself. These nerves are not just doing one job. They're part of a whole system that keeps you breathing, digesting, speaking, and resting. And sometimes when the signals overlap or get mixed, the result is a hiccup. But it's not a mistake. It's just your body responding in the best way it knows how, even if that response is a little awkward or funny. As we keep going, we'll take a closer look at some of the emotional triggers behind hiccups, how laughter, nervousness, and surprise can all play a role in setting off the reflex. We'll also talk about why babies hiccup more than adults and what that teaches us about how hiccups may have started in the first place. For now, just know this. Hiccups might seem strange, but your body is not confused. It's alert, it's reacting, it's alive. And every hiccup, no matter how sudden, is part of the same system that lets you breathe, speak, eat, and rest. Day after day, moment after moment, even while you sleep. Now that we've looked at how the nerves control the diaphragm and what causes a hiccup to happen, let's gently turn our attention toward another interesting question. Why do emotions sometimes trigger hiccups? You might not think that feelings and muscles have much to do with each other, but in the body, almost everything is connected. Think about moments when you've laughed very hard and suddenly started hiccuping. Or maybe you've felt nervous before giving a speech or entering a new place, and right in the middle of that anxious moment, the hiccups started. Some people even hiccup when they're scared, excited, or feeling emotional pressure. So what's happening? When we feel strong emotions, our breathing changes. We might breathe faster, or we might hold our breath without realizing it. Our chest can tighten, our heart can race, and deep in our body, the diaphragm responds to all of these changes. It's like the diaphragm is listening to the signals being sent by our thoughts and feelings, not just to physical ones. Emotions are not just things that happen in the mind. They create real responses in the body. If you've ever had sweaty palms, a racing heart, or a dry mouth when nervous, you've already felt that. The same system that controls your stress response, the autonomic nervous system, also has a role in breathing and digestion. So, when you're anxious or overwhelmed, that system can send mixed signals to the diaphragm and the vagus nerve. Those signals might be interpreted as something needing action, and so a hiccup might follow. It's not about danger, it's just about change. The body is noticing a shift in how you feel, and sometimes hiccups are one way it responds. That's why emotional hiccups can appear suddenly and go away just as fast. They often stop when the feeling settles or when the body calms itself again. This also explains why relaxation techniques can help. If you're someone who tends to hiccup when nervous, you may benefit from simple calming routines, breathing slowly, drinking warm water, or quietly naming what you feel. These little acts help remind the nervous system that everything is okay, and they help bring the body back to its normal rhythm. Another emotional trigger is laughter. It may sound strange that something so joyful could cause hiccups, but when you laugh, your diaphragm is moving up and down quickly and forcefully. Laughing is actually a kind of physical exercise for the chest. When it becomes intense, the muscles involved in breathing can become overstimulated, including the diaphragm. This can trigger a hiccup reflex. You may have noticed this after a long laugh. Your breathing feels irregular, your throat tightens, and then a hiccup appears. It's completely normal. The body is reacting to strong muscle movement in the chest and a sudden rush of air. Just like with fear or anxiety, laughter can send unexpected signals to the nerves that manage breathing and digestion. This goes to show how emotions, even positive ones, can ripple through the entire body and lead to these small, surprising reactions. In fact, there's even something called psychogenic hiccups. These are hiccups believed to be linked mostly to psychological or emotional factors. They're not caused by eating or drinking, but by stress, trauma, or emotional habits. This is rare, but it shows how powerful the mind-body connection really is. In some people, certain feelings become linked to a physical response, and the hiccup becomes almost a signal of internal distress. But even in those cases, the body is not trying to be difficult. It's communicating. It's asking for attention. It's responding to the invisible weight of emotion, turning it into something you can feel. And while that can be frustrating, it also gives us insight. The next time a hiccup shows up unexpectedly, instead of brushing it off, you might pause and ask, "How am I feeling right now? Is there a tension I didn't notice? Is my breath shallow, my posture tight, my thoughts spinning?" That small moment of awareness can help you understand your body's patterns. It may not stop the hiccups instantly, but it helps build a stronger connection between what you feel and how your body responds. That's powerful, and that's something you can work with. In children and babies, this connection is even more visible. Babies hiccup all the time, sometimes even before they are born. Ultrasounds have shown fetuses hiccuping in the womb. Scientists believe that these early hiccups may help babies develop the muscles needed for breathing. Others believe hiccups help babies clear air from their stomachs after feeding. When a baby drinks milk, they sometimes swallow air along with it. Hiccups might be the body's way of helping push that extra air out. That could be why burping and hiccuping often come together in infants. As we grow older, our body becomes more skilled at managing air, pressure, and digestion. The reflex remains, but we experience it less often. It becomes more tied to specific triggers like spicy food, laughter, or emotion. Still, the fact that babies hiccup so much tells us that this reflex has been with us since the very beginning. It's one of the first things the body learns to do. And even as adults, it stays with us, quiet, harmless, and always waiting to react if something feels off. So when you hiccup, think of it as a reminder that your body is still deeply connected to the systems it started developing long before you were born. It's not a mistake, it's a memory, a leftover whisper from when you were just forming. In the next part of this journey, we'll look at hiccups that last too long, why that happens, what it means, and what doctors look for when hiccups don't go away. But for now, take a slow breath. Let your diaphragm rise and fall gently. It's still working for you. It's listening, it's moving, and it's learning with every beat. Even when it spasms, even when it surprises you, it's still a part of your rhythm. A soft rhythm you've had since the very start. By now, we've gently explored how hiccups are caused by the diaphragm, triggered by nerves, and sometimes influenced by emotions like stress, laughter, or excitement. We've looked at how hiccups can show up suddenly, disappear on their own, or quietly remind us that the body is always paying attention, even to the smallest changes inside and around us. But not all hiccups are so simple. While most come and go within a few minutes, there are times when hiccups last much longer. These are the ones that stay with you for hours or even days. When that happens, it's no longer just a quick reflex. It becomes something we call persistent hiccups. If hiccups last more than 48 hours, doctors refer to them as persistent. And if they go on for more than a month, they're called intractable. These types are rare, but they do happen, and when they do, they're often a sign that something else in the body needs attention. Long-lasting hiccups can be exhausting. They interrupt sleep, make it hard to eat, and affect concentration. They can even become emotionally upsetting, especially when they keep coming back, and nothing seems to stop them. So what causes hiccups to last this long? To answer that, doctors look at the same parts of the body we've already explored, the diaphragm, the vagus nerve, and the phrenic nerve, but they also look beyond that. Sometimes persistent hiccups are caused by pressure on the diaphragm. This pressure can come from things like an enlarged stomach, a tumor, or even fluid buildup in the chest. If something is physically pressing on the diaphragm or the nerves that connect to it, the reflex can keep repeating itself. That's one possible cause. Another is irritation of the nerves. For example, if you have a sore throat, an ear infection, or acid reflux, that irritation can travel through the vagus nerve and reach the diaphragm. It's like a small ripple that turns into a bigger wave the more it moves. Even something like a hair touching the eardrum has been reported to trigger hiccups in rare cases because of how sensitive the vagus nerve is. Doctors also consider problems in the central nervous system. The brainstem is a key area that controls many automatic body functions, including breathing. If something affects this part of the brain, like a stroke, a tumor, or a head injury, it can disturb the signals being sent to the diaphragm and lead to ongoing hiccups. Certain medical conditions like multiple sclerosis, meningitis, or even Parkinson's disease have been linked to persistent hiccups as well. In these cases, hiccups are not the main problem, but rather a symptom of something deeper. Medications can also play a role. Some drugs, especially those that affect the brain or stomach, have been known to cause hiccups as a side effect. These include steroids, certain chemotherapy agents, and drugs used for anxiety or depression. If a person develops hiccups after starting a new medication, doctors may look closely at that link. In rare cases, hiccups can even be caused by emotional or mental health factors. Anxiety, stress, or trauma can all affect the body in powerful ways. If someone is holding a lot of internal pressure, their body might express that tension through a physical reflex. It's not something imagined, it's a real response to emotional strain. Psychogenic hiccups, as they're sometimes called, can appear during times of grief, fear, or personal hardship. When doctors evaluate long-term hiccups, they often run tests to check for anything physical that might be causing them. This can include chest X-rays, brain scans, blood work, or an endoscopy to look at the stomach and throat. Sometimes they find something specific, and other times the tests show nothing unusual. If there's no clear physical cause and the hiccups continue to disrupt daily life, the focus turns to managing the symptoms. Treatment for persistent hiccups varies depending on the cause. If it's linked to acid reflux, treating the reflux may stop the hiccups. If it's related to a nerve issue, medications that calm the nervous system may be used. Muscle relaxants, antipsychotic drugs, or anticonvulsants have been tried in some cases. And in extreme situations, a doctor may even suggest blocking the phrenic nerve with an injection to stop the diaphragm from reacting. But again, these are rare. Most people will never need this level of care. For the average person, hiccups are harmless and short. Still, knowing that there is medical help available can bring comfort, especially if hiccups become distressing or long-lasting. It's also a reminder of how much the body depends on balance. One small area of irritation, whether physical, emotional, or neurological, can echo through the system and create reactions we don't always understand. That's what makes the body both fascinating and humbling. Everything is connected. Everything matters. And sometimes, even a hiccup can be a clue. If you or someone you know has hiccups that won't stop, it's always okay to speak to a doctor. They'll help find out what's causing them and how to bring relief. And while you wait, you can still do small things to help your body feel calm. Deep breathing, warm water, quiet rest, gentle support. These small comforts don't just help the nerves, they help you feel grounded, even when your body feels unpredictable. In the next part of our story, we'll return to the everyday kind of hiccups, the ones that come and go without warning, often after eating or laughing. We'll explore why they often happen more at night or during certain meals, and why everyone seems to have their own trick for stopping them. We'll also look at some of the most popular hiccup remedies people use around the world, and which ones might actually work. For now, if your body has been calm while listening to this, take a quiet moment to appreciate that. The diaphragm is resting, the breath is steady, and whether or not it hiccups again tonight, you've taken the time to understand it, and that understanding is a kind of medicine too. Now that we've explored what might cause long-lasting hiccups and how doctors understand the more serious side of them, let's slowly come back to the everyday hiccups, the ones most of us have experienced many times throughout life. These are the hiccups that pop up when you're eating a big meal, sipping something fizzy, laughing hard with friends, or sometimes even when you're doing nothing at all. They come quickly, often without warning, and they leave just as suddenly. And because they're so common, everyone seems to have their own favorite method for getting rid of them. One of the most interesting things about hiccups is that they seem to bring out creativity in people. If you ask 5 different people how to stop hiccups, you'll probably get 5 completely different answers. Some say to hold your breath for as long as you can. Others say to drink water upside down. Some say to eat a spoonful of sugar. Others say to get someone to scare you. And the list goes on. But why are there so many methods? And do any of them really work? The truth is, hiccups are controlled by your nervous system, so many of the remedies we try are actually aiming to reset that system, to interrupt the loop that's causing the diaphragm to spasm. Holding your breath is one of the most popular suggestions. When you hold your breath, you increase the amount of carbon dioxide in your bloodstream. That can signal your body to adjust your breathing rhythm, which might help stop the hiccup reflex. Drinking a glass of cold water is another common method. The cold temperature can stimulate the vagus nerve in your throat and mouth, which may reset the message going to your diaphragm. Swallowing water in small sips or slowly drinking while plugging your ears is thought to distract the brain and force focus on another controlled motion, swallowing, which involves the same area where the hiccup reflex is triggered. Then there's sugar. Yes, the simple spoonful of sugar that Mary Poppins sang about. Some people believe that placing sugar on your tongue and letting it dissolve may stimulate taste receptors and nerves in the mouth that interact with the vagus nerve. This gentle stimulation could interfere with the hiccup cycle. And what about getting scared? Being startled suddenly can cause your breathing and heart rate to change. The surprise may shock your body into switching out of the reflex loop. This might be why some people say that someone jumping out and yelling "boo" helped their hiccups go away. It doesn't always work, but the idea is to make a quick change in the nervous system's focus. There's also the paper bag trick, where someone breathes slowly into a paper bag. This also increases carbon dioxide and may trigger a calming response in the diaphragm and breathing center. But this should be done carefully and only for a short time, and it's not recommended for anyone with heart or lung issues. All of these remedies have one thing in common. They are trying to interrupt the hiccup reflex by gently confusing or redirecting the nervous system. Some methods try to calm the diaphragm. Others try to stimulate nearby nerves. Some try to change the breathing rhythm. And even though the success rate varies, many people find that at least one method works for them. Still, the most consistent truth is that most hiccups go away on their own without any remedy at all. They fade out quietly, just like they started. Your nervous system resets naturally, and your diaphragm goes back to its usual calm rhythm. But there's something comforting about having a small action to try. When something strange happens in your body, it helps to feel like you can do something about it, even if that something is as simple as taking a breath or sipping a glass of water. Across the world, different cultures have their own hiccup remedies, too. In India, people might suggest sipping water while holding your nose. In Mexico, some people say to pull on your tongue gently. In parts of Africa, it's said that holding your arms straight up while drinking water may help. In Japan, people sometimes say that having someone press lightly on the palms of your hands can calm hiccups. In some cultures, it's even said that hiccups happen when someone is thinking about you or gossiping about you. While that part may not be backed by science, it reminds us that hiccups have always been noticed, talked about, and passed down through generations. Whether the solution is a home remedy, an old superstition, or a trusted trick passed on by your grandmother, it shows how deeply hiccups are woven into human life. They are small, surprising, and completely natural. No matter where you are in the world, no matter your age, hiccups happen. They're one of the few body experiences that connect. Nearly everyone, and for that reason alone, they are worth understanding. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore how your body returns to normal after hiccups stop. What happens inside you when the spasms settle? What tells your diaphragm to relax and stay still again? And what can you do to help your system calm down faster so you can feel comfortable and quiet once more? But before we move on, take this moment to notice your own breathing. Is it slow? Is it gentle? Place a hand over your chest if you'd like and feel the rise and fall. Your diaphragm is moving perfectly right now. And whether or not you ever hiccup again today, this muscle will keep working, keep breathing, and keep listening to you, no matter what. Now that we've looked at so many ways hiccups can begin, from eating too fast to laughing too hard, from emotional stress to an overstretched stomach, you may be wondering what exactly happens inside the body when those hiccups stop. That's just as interesting as how they start, because just like there are signals that tell your diaphragm to spasm, there are also signals that tell it to calm down again. Your body always wants balance. It wants things to return to normal, and it's constantly working in the background to help you do just that. The first thing to understand is that hiccups, like many other reflexes, are short-term reactions. They are not meant to last long. Just like sneezing, coughing, or blinking, hiccups are triggered by a small event, and then the body usually settles on its own. Once the reason for the hiccup reflex goes away, whether it was an irritation in the throat, a gas bubble in the stomach, or a moment of stress, the nervous system slowly stops sending the signals to the diaphragm. This doesn't always happen instantly, but the body has ways of noticing that the problem has passed. The diaphragm, which had been jerking or pulling down suddenly, begins to receive fewer and fewer activation signals from the brainstem. It starts to relax. Its normal breathing rhythm gently returns. That's when the hiccups stop. It's a bit like a wave that builds, crashes, and then quietly fades into calm water again. You may notice this without even realizing it. 1 minute you're hiccuping every few seconds, and the next you've gone a whole minute without one. Then 2 minutes. Then suddenly you realize they're gone. The return to calm often happens gradually, not all at once. And while it can feel like a mystery, your body knows exactly what it's doing. It's listening, it's balancing, it's responding. In the nervous system, there's something called feedback. This means that your body is always paying attention to what's working and what isn't. If something in the body changes, like a hiccup beginning, the brain and nerves monitor that change. When they see that it's no longer needed or that it was a false alarm, they begin to reverse the process. In the case of hiccups, the brainstem and diaphragm start to sink back into normal rhythm. Think of it like a reset button being quietly pressed in the background. That's the beautiful part of your body's reflexes. They're automatic, but not random. They respond to real signals. And they calm when the signals calm. This is also why slow breathing can help hiccups stop faster. When you breathe slowly and gently, you're not only relaxing your body, you're sending messages back to your brain. You're saying, everything is okay now. There's no need to stay on high alert. That kind of breathing activates something called the parasympathetic nervous system. You might remember that from earlier. This is the part of your body's system that helps you relax, rest, and digest. When this system becomes more active, it helps turn off the stress signals. It also quiets the signals that can lead to hiccups. So even if a glass of cold water or a spoonful of sugar didn't work, your own breath might be the tool that brings your system back to peace. That's why many people find that sitting still, breathing slowly, and doing nothing at all can sometimes work better than any trick. Your body's already trying to fix the problem. You're just helping it along. Posture can also make a difference. If you're slouched or curled up tightly, your stomach and diaphragm may be pressed together in ways that make it harder for the system to reset. Sitting up straight or leaning back slightly can give the diaphragm more space to move freely again. That space helps it return to its regular rhythm. Drinking warm water or holding a warm compress to the chest can also relax the muscles involved in hiccuping. Warmth helps calm nerves. It tells your body to release tension. That's why things like hot tea, soft blankets, and gentle music help so many people feel better. Not just emotionally, but physically too. The body listens to the environment. It reacts to softness. Sometimes people become frustrated when hiccups don't stop right away. They might try every method they know and feel annoyed or even embarrassed, especially if hiccups happen during a phone call, a quiet meeting, or a serious conversation. But it's important to remember that hiccups are nothing to feel ashamed of. Everyone gets them. They're a natural reflex, and they almost always stop on their own. It can help to gently tell yourself, "This will pass. My body knows what to do." That little thought, spoken quietly in your mind, can have a real effect. It lowers anxiety. It slows the heartbeat. It helps the body relax enough to let the nerves settle. And in that settled state, the hiccups have a better chance of stopping. Sometimes we focus so much on stopping the symptom that we forget to support the system. But your body is smart. It just needs time. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore why some people get hiccups more often than others. Is it something in their diet, their stress levels, their body type, or just random chance? We'll look at all of that gently, with curiosity, not judgment. But before we move ahead, take a moment to feel your own breath again. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw soften. Let your belly rise and fall gently with your next few breaths. This is your diaphragm at work, steady, smooth, quiet. And after all it does for you, even when it hiccups, it still deserves your kindness. Now, let's gently explore a question many people ask, but few actually know the answer to. Why do some people seem to get hiccups more often than others? Maybe you've noticed it in your own life. One person might go months without a single hiccup, while another seems to get them every time they laugh, eat quickly, or drink something fizzy. Some people even get hiccups at the same time of day, like in the evening after dinner or while lying down to sleep. So, what causes this difference? Why does one body react more often to the same small triggers, while another stays quiet? To understand this, we need to remember that every body is slightly different. Just like some people have more sensitive skin or faster heartbeats, some people have a more sensitive hiccup reflex. This doesn't mean something is wrong, it just means their nerves and muscles are a little quicker to respond to changes. The nerves that cause hiccups, the vagus and phrenic nerves, might be more easily stimulated in some people. That means a small amount of gas in the stomach or a sudden laugh might be enough to trigger a hiccup. In others, it might take a bigger change to create the same effect. Sensitivity varies, just like the way we all react differently to tickles or cold water. Another factor is how we eat and drink. People who eat quickly, talk while chewing, or drink carbonated drinks often swallow more air. This can cause the stomach to expand slightly, pressing against the diaphragm and creating the perfect conditions for a hiccup. So if someone has a habit of eating fast or consuming a lot of fizzy beverages, they might be more likely to experience hiccups. It's not dangerous, it's just something to be aware of. Posture also plays a role. Sitting hunched over while eating or lying down right after a meal can compress the stomach area and increase the chance of irritating the diaphragm. That's why sitting upright and eating slowly is often recommended, not just for digestion, but to prevent hiccups too. Then there's the emotional side. People who are more anxious or emotionally sensitive may also experience more hiccups. This isn't because something is wrong with their mental health, it's just that their nervous system tends to react more strongly to small internal shifts. A flutter of nervousness, a sudden excitement, or even a big deep breath during a stressful moment might be enough to trigger the reflex. Again, this is not a weakness, it's just the body trying to stay alert and respond to changes, even if those changes are gentle or invisible. Genetics might play a part too. Some researchers believe that hiccup patterns could be passed down in families. If your parents or siblings tend to hiccup more often, you might as well. This isn't fully proven, but it makes sense when you think about how many body traits, like allergies, sensitivities, or even sleep habits, run in families. It wouldn't be surprising if hiccup sensitivity did too. Even certain medical conditions can increase the chance of frequent hiccups. These might include acid reflux, stomach irritation, or hiatal hernias, which occur when part of the stomach pushes up through the diaphragm. These conditions make it easier for pressure to build in the belly area, which in turn may irritate the diaphragm and cause hiccups to appear more often. If hiccups are happening every day, especially after eating or lying down, it might be worth speaking to a doctor to check for these common issues. Still, in most cases, frequent hiccups are harmless and just part of how your body communicates. Some people even get what's called hiccup attacks, where the hiccups come back in bursts throughout a single day. These can be annoying but usually fade on their own with time, rest, and perhaps a bit of distraction or deep breathing. It can also be helpful to start noticing your own hiccup patterns. Do they tend to happen at a certain time of day, after a certain kind of food, in specific emotional moments? Do they stop after a certain remedy or technique? Keeping track of these patterns gently, without judgment, helps you learn how your body responds. Over time, you may even figure out which habits support calm and which ones are more likely to trigger the reflex. You don't need to control every part of your day. You just need to be aware. That awareness alone gives you power. And sometimes, just knowing that your body is doing something for a reason, even something as small as a hiccup, can help you feel more at peace with the process. If you're someone who hiccups often, it might help to slow down meals, reduce fizzy drinks, eat in a more upright position, and take a few gentle breaths before and after eating. You might also try warm teas instead of cold sodas or shorter conversations during meals. To avoid swallowing too much air while talking, these aren't rules, they're just kind little adjustments you can make to support your system, and if you still hiccup sometimes, that's okay too. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong, it just means your body was reacting and then it settled again. In the next part of our journey, we'll talk about hiccups during sleep. Yes, they can happen even while you're resting, and how the body continues to manage breathing, digestion, and muscle movement during the quietest parts of the night. For now, just notice how you feel. Let your shoulders relax. Let your eyes soften. Place a hand gently on your belly, if you'd like, and feel the rise and fall with your breath. That's your diaphragm, steady and present, doing its quiet job. And whether it hiccups again soon or not at all, it's always trying to keep you balanced, one breath at a time. It might seem strange, but some people experience hiccups even while they're resting or asleep. You might be lying in bed, completely quiet, with your eyes closed and your breathing slow, and then suddenly your body jumps with a hiccup. It might wake you up. It might pass quickly, or you might not even notice it at all. But it's real, and it leads to another curious question. If hiccups are linked to movement, talking, eating, or sudden emotion, then why do they sometimes happen when the body is calm and still? Why would the diaphragm spasm during sleep when you're not doing anything at all? To answer that, we need to understand how the body works during rest, especially during sleep. Even when you're asleep, your body is never truly off. In fact, it's doing some of its most important work, healing, restoring, organizing thoughts and memories, and maintaining your breathing, heart rate, digestion, and more. Your diaphragm, just like your heartbeat, continues to move without your control. It keeps your lungs filling with air and releasing it gently, breath after breath. But even though the body is mostly calm, the systems are still running. That includes your nervous system. And while it slows down during sleep, it doesn't completely stop sending signals. In fact, during certain parts of sleep, especially light sleep and early stages of rest, your nerves might still react to small changes happening inside your body. For example, if there's gas building in your stomach after a late-night meal, or acid reflux quietly rising into your throat, those sensations might trigger the vagus nerve or irritate the diaphragm. Even if you're unconscious, your nervous system might detect something uncomfortable and react with a hiccup. This shows us just how sensitive and alert the body remains, even in sleep. Another reason for sleep hiccups could be related to breathing patterns. During deep sleep, your breathing becomes very regular, but during light sleep, it can shift slightly based on your position or environment. If you roll onto your side and compress your stomach, or if the temperature in the room changes quickly, that could affect the signals going to the diaphragm. A sudden drop in temperature, for instance, might cause the diaphragm to contract quickly, triggering a hiccup reflex. This is also why some people hiccup more in colder rooms or after drinking cold water before bed. But what about hiccups that don't just happen once, but come in small episodes during the night? These are more rare, but they do happen. Some people report waking up multiple times during the night with hiccups, even though they didn't eat late or feel stressed. In such cases, doctors may explore if there's an underlying cause, something like mild reflux, a food sensitivity, or even certain medications that affect the nervous system while the person is sleeping. Sleep hiccups are often nothing to worry about, but if they happen regularly and affect your sleep quality, it's okay to talk to your doctor. Sometimes a few small changes, like adjusting your sleeping position, raising your pillow, avoiding food or cold drinks an hour before bed, can reduce the chances of the reflex being triggered. Another thing to keep in mind is that dreams can also play a role in body reactions during sleep. When we dream, especially during REM sleep, the stage where dreaming is most active, our brains are firing signals, our muscles sometimes twitch, and our breathing may change slightly. If a dream causes a sudden feeling of excitement, fear, or surprise, it might affect your breath. Even though your body is not moving much, your nervous system might react in small ways. In rare cases, this can lead to a hiccup or a deep inhale. You might not remember the dream, but your diaphragm might have felt it. This, again, shows the deep link between emotion and physical reflex. Your thoughts and feelings, even the ones you're not aware of, can still echo through your body in ways you don't expect. There's also something called sleep myoclonus, which is a fancy word for those sudden body jerks that happen right as you're falling asleep. You may have felt that before. Your leg kicks or your arm jumps just as you're drifting off. Some people believe that hiccups in light sleep may be connected to that same body reflex. It's like your nervous system is in between being awake and asleep and gets a little signal confused. The diaphragm reacts and a hiccup happens. It's quick, harmless, and usually doesn't last. If you've never had hiccups during sleep, that's okay too. Not everyone does, but knowing that it's possible and understanding why can help reduce the worry if it ever happens. It's not a sign of anything serious. It's just your body staying aware, adjusting, shifting, doing what it needs to do. It may be trying to fix a small irritation, adjust your breath, or simply reacting to something tiny that passed by unnoticed. And just like daytime hiccups, sleep hiccups almost always go away on their own. In the next part of our journey, we'll gently explore the link between hiccups and digestion. We've already mentioned that a full stomach can trigger the reflex, but how exactly does digestion connect to your diaphragm? And why do certain foods make hiccups more likely than others? We'll talk about spicy food, carbonated drinks, heavy meals, and more. For now, take a moment to notice your breath again. If you're listening to this at night, perhaps you're already resting. If so, allow your body to sink a little deeper into comfort. Let your jaw loosen. Let your belly soften. Let each breath come and go without effort. Even if your body surprises you now and then, even if it hiccups while you sleep, it is still caring for you, still protecting you, and still finding its rhythm. Gently, patiently, in every quiet hour of the night. Let's take a slow step now into your belly, the space where digestion begins and where many hiccups also get their start. You may already know from earlier in our journey that eating too fast or too much can sometimes cause hiccups. But why? What exactly is happening inside your body after you eat that leads to a sudden spasm of the diaphragm? The answer lies in how closely your digestive system and your nervous system are connected. When you swallow food, it travels down your throat and into a long tube called the esophagus, which leads into your stomach. Your stomach then starts to stretch to make room for the food and begins breaking it down using muscles and digestive juices. As the stomach fills, it presses slightly upward toward the diaphragm, since the diaphragm sits right on top of it. If the stomach stretches quickly, maybe because of a big meal, gulping air while eating, or drinking something fizzy, that pressure can irritate the diaphragm, and when the diaphragm gets irritated, it can spasm. That spasm is the start of a hiccup, but it doesn't always stop there. Along the path of your esophagus and stomach are sensitive nerves that are paying attention to what's happening. The vagus nerve, which we've talked about before, is one of the longest and most sensitive nerves in your body. It wraps gently around the digestive system and helps monitor movement, fullness, and other signals. When it senses too much pressure, it might send a message back to the brain that says something is off, and the brain might respond by triggering the hiccup reflex. This is why food plays such a big role in hiccups. Certain types of food and drink are more likely to cause irritation or pressure in the stomach or esophagus. Spicy foods, for example, can irritate the lining of the esophagus and stimulate the vagus nerve. Carbonated drinks release gas that fills the stomach with bubbles, increasing pressure quickly. Cold beverages, especially if swallowed quickly, can shock the throat and cause muscle contractions that confuse the nerves. Even swallowing too much air while chewing gum or talking while eating can lead to similar reactions. It's not about the food being bad, it's about how your body responds to the sudden changes that food creates inside. Some people notice that their hiccups tend to come after big meals, rich foods, or eating while distracted. Eating while watching TV, for example, can cause you to eat faster or breathe irregularly, increasing the chance of swallowing air. And when that happens, it's like setting the stage for a hiccup. Your stomach expands, the diaphragm feels the push, the nerves respond, and suddenly the hic arrives. But it's not just about the stomach being full. Even small amounts of food, if eaten quickly or when you're stressed, can create the same effect. That's because the nervous system isn't just watching your body, it's also listening to your emotions. If you're tense while eating, your breathing changes, your muscles tighten, the esophagus becomes more sensitive, and all of this can work together to create the perfect storm for a hiccup. That's why slowing down during meals helps so much. When you eat slowly, chew carefully, and breathe evenly between bites, you give your body time to process the food without stress. You swallow less air. You give your stomach a chance to stretch gradually. You reduce the chance of nerve irritation. It might sound simple, but eating slowly is one of the most effective ways to prevent digestive-related hiccups. It's also more comfortable for your whole system. And that's not all. Posture matters too. Sitting upright while eating gives your organs room to move. Lying down right after a meal can increase pressure on the stomach and diaphragm, especially if acid reflux is present. That's why hiccups sometimes appear shortly after someone lies down for a nap or relaxes on the couch after eating. Elevating your upper body slightly with a pillow can reduce that pressure and make it easier for your stomach and diaphragm to work together in peace. Even the types of food you eat can play a part. Fatty foods take longer to digest and may sit in the stomach for extended periods. This can cause more fullness and slow movement in the gut, which may increase the chance of pressure-related hiccups. On the other hand, light, warm meals that are easy to digest often leave the stomach quickly, making them less likely to trigger hiccups. Drinking room-temperature water or warm herbal tea instead of ice-cold sodas can also soothe the esophagus rather than shocking it. If hiccups often come after eating, these gentle adjustments can make a difference. Some people find relief by taking small sips of warm liquid after meals. Others like to pause halfway through eating, take a few deep breaths, and notice how their stomach feels. These little check-ins give the body a chance to reset. They create a space between hunger and fullness, between eating and overeating, and sometimes that space is exactly what the diaphragm needs to stay calm. In the next part of our journey, we'll take a closer look at hiccups in babies, why they hiccup so often, what it means, and why it's usually nothing to worry about. Their tiny bodies are still learning the rhythms of breath and digestion, and hiccups are part of that learning. But before we head into the world of baby hiccups, just take a moment to think about your own breath. Feel how your chest rises. Feel how your stomach expands. Know that your body is doing something incredible, something it has done every day of your life. Your diaphragm is working in perfect rhythm, helping you breathe, helping you speak, and sometimes, yes, even surprising you with a hiccup. But every breath, every movement, every little reflex, it's all part of the same quiet system that keeps you alive. And when you understand it, even the strange little hic begins to feel like a small part of something beautiful. Now let's enter the quiet world of babies, the tiniest humans still learning how to breathe, swallow, move, and grow, and talk about why they seem to hiccup so often. If you've ever been near a newborn, you've probably noticed it. A tiny sound, a small jump in the chest, maybe a wide-eyed pause as their body makes a noise they don't understand yet. Hiccups in babies are common. In fact, they're so common that many newborns hiccup daily, sometimes even several times a day. And here's something even more surprising. Babies start hiccuping before they're even born. That's right. Ultrasounds have shown that fetuses can begin hiccuping inside the womb as early as the second trimester. These early hiccups happen long before the baby has tasted air or food or felt a cold drink in their throat. So the question becomes, If babies are hiccuping even before birth, what is the purpose? Is it just a glitch, or does it serve a purpose in their development? Most researchers believe that hiccups in babies may actually be part of how they train their bodies to breathe. Remember, the diaphragm is the main muscle that controls breathing. For a baby inside the womb, the lungs aren't fully used yet, but the diaphragm is already practicing. These little hiccups might be like warm-up exercises, tiny rhythmic spasms that help the diaphragm learn how to move. They may also help the baby's brain and nervous system develop the timing and control needed for breathing once they're born. It's like the body is rehearsing before the big performance of life. After birth, hiccups continue to happen often. A newborn's stomach is small and sensitive. They swallow air while feeding, they gulp milk quickly, and their muscles are still getting used to working together. These are perfect conditions for hiccups. Their tiny diaphragm can be easily triggered. But the good news is, hiccups are not harmful to babies. They don't cause pain, they don't make the baby sick, and they usually don't bother the baby at all. In fact, most of the time, the baby continues sleeping or feeding through a hiccup episode without even noticing. It's often the parents who worry more, wondering if something's wrong or if they should try to stop it. But the truth is, hiccups in babies are a normal part of development. They show that the baby's nervous system is working, that the muscles are active, and that the body is learning. There's no need to rush to fix it. In fact, trying too hard to stop baby hiccups might do more harm than good. Things like bouncing the baby or shaking their bottle can increase air in the stomach or irritate the throat more. If a baby gets hiccups during or after a feeding, the best thing to do is pause for a moment. Hold the baby upright. Let them rest. Sometimes a gentle burp or simply a few minutes of quiet can help. If the baby seems uncomfortable, offering a pacifier can help relax the diaphragm and soothe the reflex. But in most cases, the hiccups will pass on their own. Some parents notice that hiccups happen more after fast feedings or when the baby swallows a lot of air. In these cases, slowing down the feed, burping more often, or using a different bottle nipple can make a difference. Every baby is different, and learning what works for them is part of the process. But one thing is always true: baby hiccups are not a sign of illness. They're a sign of growth. They're part of the beautiful, slow rhythm of a body learning how to be in the world. There's something peaceful about watching a baby hiccup, something so gentle, so innocent. It reminds us that the body is always trying, always practicing, always working to become stronger. A hiccup, even in its small surprise, is a symbol of life unfolding, one tiny spasm at a time. And just like adults, babies will outgrow frequent hiccups. As their digestive systems mature and their muscles grow stronger, hiccups become less frequent. By the time they are toddlers, many children hiccup far less often. The reflex doesn't disappear completely, it just becomes quieter, less sensitive, more in the background. But those early days, when hiccups are part of daily life, are nothing to fear. They are a reminder that the body is learning, that growth takes practice, that everything, even breathing, begins with tiny experiments inside the chest. Some researchers even believe that hiccups in newborns may help regulate the baby's brain. As the diaphragm moves, signals are sent to the brain and back again. This ongoing communication may play a role in teaching the nervous system how to time muscle movements. Like a teacher tapping out a beat in a classroom, the diaphragm may be showing the body how rhythm works, when to move, how to stop, when to breathe. In this way, a hiccup is more than just a sound. It's a signal, a message, a practice run, and once we see it this way, it becomes much easier to accept. In the next part of our journey, we'll look at hiccups through the lens of sleep once more. Not just night hiccups, but what happens in the brain when the body prepares for rest. We'll talk about how calming the nervous system through breath, posture, and sound may help reduce hiccup frequency overall. But for now, if you're listening to this at bedtime, let your body soften. Let your chest rise gently with each breath. Let your belly expand and fall like a warm ocean wave. Somewhere deep inside you, your diaphragm is doing its work, just like it did when you were a baby. And whether it twitches, pauses, or stays steady, it's simply part of the rhythm you've had since the very beginning. As we begin to gently wind down our journey into the world of hiccups, let's turn inward for a while and focus on something quiet, something we often overlook, yet it's with us every second of every day: our nervous system. It's the body's messaging center, its response team, its built-in translator between what we feel, what we do, and what we need. It's the system that makes the diaphragm move, that triggers the hiccup reflex, and that eventually calms it all back down. But what happens when we take time to help this system relax? What happens when we slow down enough to send it messages of safety and ease? Could that be one of the softest answers to managing hiccups before they even begin? The answer, quietly and beautifully, is yes. Your nervous system is made of two main branches. One is called the sympathetic system, which helps you respond to stress, alertness, movement, and action. The other is called the parasympathetic system, which helps you relax, digest, breathe deeply, and feel safe. Most hiccups are believed to come from this delicate balance between the two. When there's a sudden signal or a small shock, the sympathetic side jumps in quickly. But to calm the hiccup, the parasympathetic side must slowly take over again. The diaphragm itself listens closely to this switch. When you're stressed or rushing, your breath becomes shallow and fast. Your stomach tightens. Your throat dries. These are small signs that your body is preparing for movement or defense. Even if there's no real danger, the body sometimes doesn't know the difference. It reacts to your schedule, your posture, your thoughts. If you eat in a hurry, speak without pause, or even hold your breath without realizing it, your body might misread those signals. That's how a hiccup can sneak in, not because you did anything wrong, but because your body thought it needed to adjust. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine sitting quietly, placing a hand on your stomach and letting your breath slow. You don't need to take a deep breath, just a real one. One that goes all the way down, the kind of breath that tells your nervous system, I am safe now. When you breathe like this, the vagus nerve becomes more active. This is the same nerve we talked about before, the one that stretches from your brain through your throat, chest, heart, lungs, and down to your stomach. When the vagus nerve is calm, the whole body begins to follow. Your heart rate slows, your digestion improves, your muscles release tension, and yes, your diaphragm softens. That softening is what tells hiccups they can stop, but it also tells them not to begin. This is why certain practices like breath work, meditation, quiet walking, and even soft humming can help people who get hiccups often. Humming, for example, lightly vibrates the vocal cords and throat, stimulating the vagus nerve in a gentle way. Singing, chanting, or even speaking softly can do the same. These aren't cures, they're invitations. They invite the nervous system to shift gears. They offer calm, not as a demand, but as an option. And when the body takes that option, the diaphragm listens. So much of what happens inside us is invisible. You may not notice the way your breath changes when you're upset, or the way your posture affects your digestion, or how a single worried thought can cause your stomach to tighten. But your body notices. And the best part? It also notices when you send it love, when you rest your hand on your belly, when you sit with quiet music, when you sip warm tea and feel it move gently down. These small acts tell your body, you don't have to react right now. You can just be. And often, that's when healing begins. Some people who get frequent hiccups have learned to catch them early. They start to notice the first sign, the small breath shift, the tightening in the throat, the strange feeling just before the hiccup comes. And instead of reacting with fear or frustration, they pause. They relax their shoulders. They breathe slower. they change their posture. Sometimes just that gentle awareness is enough to stop the hiccup before it begins. It takes time to notice these signals, and it takes practice. But it's possible, because your body wants to talk to you. It wants to help. And when you listen, you create a partnership. Not one where you control every reaction, but one where you meet your body halfway. You create space for comfort, even inside the little surprises. In the next part of our journey, we'll go back in time and look at hiccups from an evolutionary point of view. Why do humans have this reflex at all? Could it be a leftover from our ancestors? Something we used to need for survival or development that's now just a strange little echo? We'll explore those curious ideas soon, but for now, just know this: your nervous system is not working against you. It's doing its best with the information it has, and every time you give it a little more calm, a little more room, a little more care, it learns how to respond in softer ways. So take a breath now. Not a big one, just a kind one. Let it fill your chest. Let it rise into your throat. Let it pass through your diaphragm, warm and slow. Feel the space it creates inside you. That's where peace begins. That's where the hiccup ends. And that's where you are, quiet, steady, breathing, and whole. Now, as we come to the very end of our quiet journey through the strange, tiny world of hiccups, there's just one last question left to explore, a question that scientists, doctors, and dreamers have all asked at some point. Why do we even have hiccups at all? What purpose do they serve, if any? Are they just a small mistake in the body's design? Or are they something ancient, something left behind from long ago? Some researchers believe hiccups are a leftover reflex from our earliest animal ancestors, creatures that lived in water, who needed to manage the way they breathed while still being able to swallow. In those ancient bodies, the same muscle, yes, the diaphragm, had to balance breathing with gill movements. That sharp inhale followed by a quick closure of the throat may have once helped animals avoid inhaling water while eating. As life evolved, that reflex may have stayed, passed down quietly through generations, even after it was no longer useful. Now, in human bodies, it lingers like an echo, no longer serving a purpose, just a reflex waiting for the right or wrong moment. Another idea comes from our own earliest days as developing babies. In the womb, as you heard earlier, hiccups start before breathing does. Some scientists believe these early hiccups help the brain practice the movement of breathing, shaping the rhythms that lungs and muscles will later follow. In this view, hiccups are not just leftovers, but teachers. They train the body before the world arrives. So, whether you see hiccups as an ancient trace of underwater creatures or a baby's first breathing lesson, both views help us feel a little more at peace with them. They remind us that hiccups aren't flaws. They're just quiet shadows from the body's past, like fossils in motion, like little surprise stories that rise up, make a sound, then vanish. And perhaps there's something comforting in that. After all, the human body is full of mysteries, things we don't control, don't fully understand, and don't always need to. The hiccup is one of those mysteries, a tiny, harmless wave, an involuntary whisper from deep inside, something that startles us, makes us laugh, frustrates us, or makes us pause. But always, always, something that passes. It doesn't stay, it doesn't harm. It just appears and fades. And maybe that's its quiet lesson. That not everything uncomfortable is a threat. That some things are just moments. That even the strangest sounds from your own chest are part of a story far older than you. A story of breath, growth, rhythm, and reaction. A story that began before birth, shaped by evolution, molded by time, and carried quietly in the muscles between your lungs and your belly. So, the next time you hiccup, you don't have to panic. You don't have to fight it. You can simply smile a little, breathe a little, and let it go. You can remember what you learned here, that hiccups come from a place of sensitivity and response. that they connect your brain, your nerves, your diaphragm, and your emotions, that they are part of the way your body tries to adjust, adapt, and communicate, even if that message is odd, even if it comes with a noise. You can also remember that they pass, just like everything else. The nervous system settles, the stomach softens, the breath becomes steady, and the body, as it always does, returns to calm. If you've made it this far in the story, I hope you feel something deeper than just knowledge. I hope you feel understood, not just in your mind, but in your body. That you now know something gentle and true about yourself. That you're more than just reactions. You're a living, breathing, curious human being. A person with patterns, nerves, habits, and mystery. A person whose diaphragm sometimes dances without warning, whose nerves sometimes misfire, and whose heart still beats, even in the middle of it all. Tonight, if you rest, let your breath be soft. Let your thoughts drift. Let your body lie gently in the quiet. And if, by chance, a hiccup finds you, smile. You know its name now. You know its reason. And most of all, you know how to let it go. Thank you for spending this time with me, for slowing down, for being curious, for allowing your body the space to be seen, felt, and cared for. If you'd like to hear more quiet stories like this, about the body, the breath, the feelings that live under the surface, I invite you to subscribe, not for noise, but for comfort, for curiosity, for calm. And before you close your eyes tonight, I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from? Let me know in the comments. And until we meet again, may your breath be slow, your body be gentle, and your hiccups kind.